While lying in that hospital bed staring at the ceiling, I thought my story was about to end. But everything changed with a cookie dot. My name is Jennifer Mount, and just 3 months ago, I was diagnosed with a rare type of cancer. Words like chemotherapy and treatment plan echoed in my mind like a haunting melody. My savings were nearly depleted, and my small freelance graphic design business was struggling. I lived in a tiny apartment that I had called home for the past 5 years. Between exhausting chemotherapy sessions and mounting medical bills, I often lay awake at night staring at the ceiling, wondering how I could possibly go on. The pain of chemotherapy was nothing compared to the fear of losing everything. Each day, I felt my body grow weaker. The lowest point in my journey came when I was hospitalized due to an infection caused by my weakened immune system. Lying in that hospital bed, I felt utterly defeated. I made a promise to myself as I stared at the ceiling. I would not let this illness define me. I would overcome it and create a life I could be proud of. One evening, wrapped in a blanket and sitting on my couch, I thought about my grandmother. She used to say, "Jennifer, when life crumbles around you, make something sweet out of it." Her words stirred something within me. Baking wasn't just a hobby, it was my lifeline. That day, I had exactly $5.20 left in my bank account. Desperation drove me to make a bold decision, to spend that money on flour, sugar, and butter. That night, for the first time in months, I baked chocolate chip cookies. I had no idea that tray of cookies would mark the first step in changing my life. My first attempt at selling cookies was a disaster. I baked all night only to sell one batch to a neighbor. The profit barely covered the cost of the ingredients. But I didn't give up. I started experimenting with recipes, waking up early to offer samples door to door. Still, I faced rejection after rejection. People would say, "Sorry, we're not interested," or worse, shut the door in my face. Each rejection felt like a blow to my fragile confidence, but I reminded myself why I was doing this. This wasn't just about cookies, it was about survival. During this time, my treatments became even more grueling. I began to question my decision. What if this was a mistake? What if the dream I was chasing wasn't meant for me? The thought of giving up crossed my mind more times than I'd like to admit. But I also knew I had nothing left to lose. The first major breakthrough came on a Sunday afternoon. Mrs. Whitmore, a local cafe owner, tasted one of my cookies. Her face lit up, and she exclaimed, "This is the best cookie I've had in years." She offered to order 10 dozen cookies for her cafe every week. That moment felt like a ray of hope amidst the storm. With Mrs. Whitmore's order, I started building a small but loyal customer base. Just as things were beginning to look up, another setback occurred. One morning, my oven broke, leaving me unable to fulfill a large order. In a panic, I called Mrs. Whitmore, and she graciously allowed me to use her cafe's kitchen for a few nights. Her kindness reignited my determination. Each day brought new challenges, but I was resolved to face them. I started sharing photos of my baked goods on social media, along with my story. Gradually, people began to take notice. Orders started flowing in, and before long, I was baking far more than I ever imagined. I hired my first employee, a young woman who loved baking as much as I did, and together we worked tirelessly to meet the growing demand. Now I'm living a dream I once thought was impossible. At this point, I realized I needed to scale up. I researched affordable commercial kitchens and negotiated a rental agreement with one that allowed me to produce larger batches. I also opened an online store, which expanded my customer base beyond my local community. Through careful budgeting and reinvesting my profits, I was able to upgrade my equipment and streamline my production process. Looking back, I remember my parents working tirelessly to make ends meet, but financial struggles were a constant part of our lives. As teachers, my parents instilled in me a strong work ethic, but also a fear of taking risks. My safe career in graphic design reflected this, steady but uninspiring. It wasn't until cancer turned my world upside down that I realized playing it safe wasn't truly living. Cancer changed everything. It forced me to confront my fears and take risks I never thought I could. But the journey wasn't easy. There were days when I wanted to give up, overwhelmed by the weight of my illness and the demands of starting a business. The day I opened my first store was unforgettable. The small shop was modest, but it was mine. Customers lined up to try my signature cookies, and their support moved me to tears. From selling cookies door to door to owning a bakery in 2 years, it felt like a miracle. Today, my bakery, Sweet Solace, has grown into a chain of 75 stores across the state. We provide jobs to many people, including single parents, cancer survivors, and those facing their own battles. Our slogan, "Turning struggles into sweetness," reflects the journey that brought us here. This experience has taught me invaluable lessons about entrepreneurship. Success doesn't come overnight. It requires persistence, adaptability, and the willingness to learn from failure. I learned to market my cookies through social media, sharing my personal journey to connect with customers on a deeper level. Building a business taught me the importance of storytelling, how sharing your why can inspire people to support your dream. If you're reading this and feel like everything is against you, remember this: you're stronger than you think. Your dreams, no matter how impossible they seem, are worth fighting for. Life may crumble around you, but you have the power to create something beautiful from it. Keep going. Your story is just beginning.